All right, everybody, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, and me, Blackburn, on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and an unfortunate loss that they sustained last night. Not an unexpected one, to be clear. I think Detroit, obviously, with their health situation, with Denver's health situation, and Detroit just being a really good basketball team, that they should have been favored, and they ultimately won. It was just unfortunate in the manner that Denver lost, and we'll talk about why. We'll talk about how. We'll talk about the flubs at the end, as well as just like a little bit of grace that can be given in this situation too. And then in the second segment, we are going to discuss a new trade rumor that came out this morning that pertains directly to the Denver Nuggets. I'll also probably talk a little bit about the Giannis situation. So if you have any thoughts about Giannis Antetokounmpo potentially getting moved and some places in the Western Conference where he could potentially get moved, then drop those in the comments below as well. But we should have a good time. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes. But let's first get into, and by the way, we're going to talk about Peyton Watson as well. There's a Peyton Watson quote that I want to discuss from one of the articles that just came out this morning. We will discuss Peyton Watson's future. Okay, let's talk about the game last night, though. Denver loses 109-107 against the Detroit Pistons. They started their normal guys of Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Duncan Robinson, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. That is a very good lineup, a very good basketball team, and a group that's relatively deep as well. I was unimpressed with their bench overall, but I mean, you look at some of the players that they have in the mix. They ultimately went 6 of 31 from three, Detroit did, but for them to win a game in which they went 6 of 31 from three is very impressive. And they did it by grabbing offensive rebounds, not turning the ball over, forcing the Nuggets to turn the ball over, and then getting to the free throw line and making the right plays at the basket when they could. So Detroit, I think, is actually the best team that Denver's faced all season at Ball Arena. Like, they've played other teams, obviously. They will play OKC at Ball Arena in a couple days, and I'm sure that my opinion will change at that point. But what I saw from Detroit was pretty impressive, and they also just did not shoot that well. And but I think the shots that they were generating were really good on a consistent basis. So credit to them. And I don't like to give credit to the Eastern Conference, obviously, because the Eastern Conference doesn't deserve it. But if there's one team that does deserve it this year, it is clearly the Pistons and what they have been able to accomplish. I have really enjoyed their turnaround as a team. Just like, there 2 years ago, they lost 29 games in a row. Like, the ability to just kind of put that in the rear view in such a short amount of time with a lot of the same guys on this roster is really impressive. Like, Tobias Harris is a recent addition from last year. He's not the most important addition, but he did play really well in that game last night. But Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, although he's a different situation because of his injury. Like, those guys are in a completely, they're in a new place now. And it's just been really impressive to see them. And if there's a team, there's a couple of teams that I think, if you're a Nuggets fan, it's okay to root for in the Eastern Conference. One is the Indiana Pacers, who are currently at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, but I just really have enjoyed what Tyrese Halliburton is all about, and think that he continues to be somebody that the entire NBA should celebrate when he does come back. But the other team is these Pistons. Like, they could potentially represent the East in the finals this year. I don't think they will. I think that there will be a team that takes them down at some point, but Cade's really good, and it would just they are impressive. Now, I say all of that, and also I think can acknowledge that Denver was very shorthanded once again, and Detroit only won this game by 2 in a game where Denver was missing 4 starters. Christian Brown was out, Cam Johnson was out, Aaron Gordon was out, and obviously Nikola Jokic was out. We'll talk about him in a little bit as well. It was an admirable performance for Denver to stay in this game. There's no question about it. They scored 35 points in the fourth quarter. They only scored 18 in the first, and it looked like Detroit was going to run away with it, but several runs from the bench. Tim Hardaway made some plays. I was really impressed with Bruce Brown off the bench in this game. I thought that he did a lot of great things. Julian Strawther had some early points, but then didn't have much production throughout the game after that, didn't have many opportunities after that. But one of the reasons that Denver got into the hole that they did was that Murray struggled in the first half of this game. Peyton Watson struggled really throughout the game for Peyton, but like especially in the first half. Those guys, like because of the usage that they are carrying, Murray took 18 shots and got to the free throw line 15 times. Peyton Watson took 20 shots. It's very rare for Denver. Like everybody else kind of has to be super efficient if those guys are not going to be. And fortunately, Denver did get some positive contributions from Spencer Jones, who went 4 of 5 from 3. He just continues to be very impressive. Jonas Valanciunas, 6 of 10 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, and had 16 rebounds, including 7 offensive. Was a really impressive game from Jonas Valanciunas against this Detroit team that's very physical, that battles a lot. Like Detroit had 41 rebounds, but Denver won the rebounding battle in large part because of the large man in the middle with Jonas Valanciunas. Had 16 rebounds himself, and the Nuggets won this rebounding battle 49-41. It wasn't just JV, but it was still a really impressive showing regardless. And Denver had an opportunity. They fought back. I thought that Murray down the stretch made a lot of great plays. He talked about last night willing the ball into the basket because he had played so poorly throughout the game. His own words. But needed, like the Nuggets just needed somebody to generate shots and make some baskets at the end of the game. And him being able to do that was genuinely impressive. Just like having the legs to even get the ball up over the rim on some of the moves that he was making. But it was a really great showing. But ultimately, it came down to Denver was down 3 with less than 10 seconds to go. Murray gets fouled and goes to the free throw line with a chance to tie the game at the free throw line to send it to OT, but misses the first free throw and makes the next 2. Denver has to foul twice. They were actually, they hadn't put the Pistons in the bonus up until that point, and so it actually took them just a little bit more time to generate additional like stoppages, and like they only had 2 seconds at that point. With the Nuggets at down 3 again, they had another opportunity, and Jamal got fouled again for a second time. It was like Javonte Green fouled him multiple times in the final 5 seconds of the basketball game. But then Murray missed again. First free throw went down, second free throw missed, and the air was just sucked out of the building on the second time. It was wild to hear. And it sucks because like Murray's your best free throw shooter. He's the guy that you rely on in those situations. And it's too bad. Like he will say he choked. He will say he needs to be better. He did say he needed to be better. He put all the blame on himself. And said there's no like excuse that he can put out there. Like that actually matters. Like he has to be better. Before the game, he was at like close to 89% from the free throw line. This game, it dropped him on the season to about like 87.6%. So like he's still over 87% from the free throw line on the season. I do think that the excessive usage and the burden that he has carried over the course of this stretch is definitely worn on him. He looked gassed the entire game and tried to get himself into a situation where he could win the game at the end. It wasn't meant to be, clearly. And he was clearly tired. I give him a little bit of grace in that situation. Also, we'll give Peyton Watson a little bit of grace. When he goes 6 of 20, I thought he played horribly for much of the game and just was very sloppy with the basketball. The Cade Cunningham was going at him on a consistent basis and just got where he wanted to go. And Peyton really struggled on both ends of the floor. But those guys are gassed, man. Those guys are tired. I totally understand it. Like Denver played a 9-man rotation in this game, but for a lot of these last few games, they've been playing an 8.5-man rotation with guys like Julian Strawther kind of in or out of the lineup, didn't really necessarily know. But yeah, it's a lot to put on those guys. Jalen Pickett only played 16 minutes. I think he should have played more. And I think Murray should have played slightly less. Peyton Watson should have played fewer than the 37 minutes that he played. Denver has to be able to rely on some of these other guys. But until they get back the reinforcements and the 4 starters that were expected to play 30 plus every night, it's really difficult for David Adelman because you want to trust the guys that you have out there and you want to play them. And then like you put the burden on Murray, you put the burden on Peyton Watson. Like it's really difficult for anybody to go away from those guys right now because they've been driving the wins. They've been driving the success. So again, a lot of grace. Denver lost to one of the best teams in the NBA. It was an unfortunate loss for sure because of the situation that Denver found themselves in. But like Denver's going to have to pick up Jamal Murray and Peyton Watson in the next month and then down the stretch of the season. Those guys are going to be tired for the rest of the year, or at least like until the All-Star break, and then hopefully they can get enough rest at that point. But like, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot for those guys to have to deal with and figure out. And so I'm very curious to see what they're able to do. But yeah, gonna be fascinating to see, folks. We'll figure it out. Okay, we're gonna do 2 breaks today because I don't really feel the need. Like there's not much to really get into on this Detroit game. Denver fought back. They did a lot of good things. They ultimately fell, but like it's hard for me to blame them. It's hard for me to put them into that situation where you say, okay, yeah, you really have to come out strong and really have to put it on like what these Nuggets, like really blame them for the situation. No, I don't feel the need to do that. I think there's some other things that we can talk about. There's some other things we can chat about that I think are more valuable for the time. Because look, I expect this Nuggets team over the course of these next few days to bounce back, to look a lot better versus Brooklyn. We'll see what happens versus the Clippers on Friday, second night of a back-to-back. And then they, of course, have OKC on Sunday. I don't know how many of those games they're going to win. I hope that they can get some reinforcements back. That's not looking promising. We'll see whether they can. But like, yeah, I think Nuggets fans have to understand that Denver's now kind of reached a point with their energy, with their physicality, with the amount that they can give on every night, that they are more likely, I think, to falter in these situations than they were before. So we'll see what happens with it. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss. We're going to talk about the Jokic news first, and then we will get into a trade rumor that came out earlier today. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about the Jokic news first and foremost. Shams Charania reported that Jokic, whether it was yesterday or the day before, I think it was yesterday, that the Nuggets are going to reevaluate Jokic in a week. That it is not going to be a situation where he comes back initially. I thought that he would come back right at the timeline. I will take some ownership for that. I was wrong and I misled the audience in some ways, and I apologize for that. That was not my intention. I genuinely thought that like he would be back pretty soon. Um, Shams said and stated in his stuff that in his report for ESPN yesterday, I believe, that the Nuggets would reevaluate Jokic in another week. They're trying to give him as much time as possible to recover from the injury that he faced. And they are in their like due diligence as an organization. They understand that the best case for them as a championship team is that Jokic is playing and as at the peak of his powers and doing everything that he can in a playoff environment and ready for that run. I don't disagree with that. I think that that's perfectly reasonable and clearly something that they should be considering. However, I am okay, Snow Wolf, this is insane. I'm listening on my Meta glasses walking my dog. That's awesome. That's so cool. Somebody set me up with some Meta glasses. That is sick. That's got to be a crazy experience. And you chose to listen to me. That's wild. Jokic being at 100% health is, of course, the top priority for the team. Of course. There's no question about it. However, what I'm seeing with the current group right now is a group that is really struggling to just hold on as much as they can. And this is the stretch this week right here where I think everybody was thinking, like in that organization, was at least considering, okay, maybe we're going to get some reinforcements back at this point. Maybe Big Fella comes back and everybody gets to take a little bit of a breather, a sigh of relief, because Jokic is going to come back and average 30, 10, and 10 as he normally does, or pretty close to it. I don't think that's happening, obviously, now. And it's at that point where, as I mentioned, okay, you're facing Detroit, the second best team statistically in the NBA, and the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's one that you're willing to give up, obviously. You come up against Brooklyn tomorrow, and obviously Denver can win that game without Joker. Obviously, you get an extra day of rest if you're Murray and Peyton Watson and the guys that are healthy, and you could probably win that game without him. Although Michael Porter Jr. is going to come back into town. It's going to be interesting. Like he's a guy that Denver's going to struggle to stop in that case. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they can actually win that game. Brooklyn, when they last played Denver, looked like a much better team than they do right now. But it'll be like something to watch at least. Like, can Denver just get that one? That should be an easy win. In addition, Denver has a second night of a back-to-back on Friday, and they're facing the Clippers, who are 16-3 in their last 19 games. That is a team that you're probably not going to beat on the second night of a back-to-back, especially because of all the teams that could be healthy. The Clippers, are a team that's now healthy and like they're playing pretty well. They're playing really great basketball. And so that's not one that I expect Denver to win on the second night of a back-to-back. But they might have if Joker was back, if the Nuggets had some other reinforcements. But I don't think that that's a consideration now. And then on Sunday, obviously, if Jokic isn't back and you're facing the OKC Thunder, it's going to be a challenge. And Murray having to play against Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, if he's back healthy at that point, Shea, obviously. There's a lot of guys on OKC that you can point to and say, that's going to be a really tough matchup. So now, could Jonas Valanciunas really help in that situation in the paint against Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and guys like that? Absolutely. Is Denver going to be in an absolute dogfight at that point? Yeah, like it's going to be, that's a challenging one. So I can see Denver going 0-3 in their next 3 games. And would that start to sound some alarm bells? Yeah, it would. And it's nobody's fault at that point because like Denver just is dealing with these injuries and it's stacking the deck against them, and it's really, really tough. Like it's a tough situation. Um, I don't think that it's fair to blame any one person, but Denver does need some guys to get back here relatively soon. I noted in my article yesterday, Nikola Jokic has missed 15 straight games. It's a lot. It's a lot of games for anybody to miss, and he obviously doesn't want to miss them. But the Nuggets, if they're doing their due diligence, like they're missing a lot. Cam Johnson just missed his 18th game in a row. Christian Brown, he played just 14 games all season and has missed 32 of his last 35 games. Aaron Gordon came back briefly after missing 19 games in a row with his hamstring injury, but now he's probably going to miss a fair amount of games until the All-Star break. So, like, getting back Jonas Valanciunas was good. Like, there's no question about it. But it does seem to me like Denver's now at this stage where they are like worn down. And the longer they play without those guys, the more worn down the current cast gets. Guys like Jamal Murray, Peyton Watson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, like everybody that's been out there for as long as they have, has been carrying the burden for as long as they have. It's going to be tough. So they are clinging to life, and I don't want to see them spiral because Denver was being overly cautious. Like if Jokic is back, if he's ready to go, he should play. Like they don't need to force it. Like they don't need to force it either direction. But if he's back and he's ready to go, and they're just being overly cautious, then I don't know, man. Like he could probably play. And I was told that he was playing pretty well. It was looking really good. So I don't think that this is a situation where Jokic is going to wait until after the All-Star break or anything that fans are dreaming up at this point. Like he's going to be back here relatively soon. The question is whether he's back now or in 6 days. And so if there is a question, like Denver could use him. Denver could absolutely use him. Okay, let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're actually going to get into these trade rumors. We're going to get into the Peyton Watson conversation and some reports that came out earlier today. I wrote some stuff up on Mile High Sports that you should check out. But before that, make sure to listen to what I have to say here about a trade rumor and Peyton Watson's future. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, back at it. Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Wanted to note, we've got in a few days, we've got 2 parties that we want to see you guys at. Some watch parties here in Denver at number 38. The Nuggets are playing on Sunday, but the day before, the Colorado Avalanche are playing, and they're playing the Detroit Red Wings. And obviously, that's always a big matchup. That's a historic matchup. And one that I think everybody's very excited about. So if you're interested, we're doing a watch party at number 38 on that Saturday. Sean Drotar, Colleen Flynn, our Avalanche reporter at Mile High Sports, are going to do a pregame show. It's going to be sponsored by Fix It and the Vimos app. And there's going to be some Freedom Service dogs. Maxie, the Freedom Service dog, who actually works directly with the Avs and Devon Taves. They have a dog in training named Maxie, named after Peter McNabb. So they're going to be on sites. They're like, if you want to meet a service dog and some of the other dogs that are going to be involved and get a picture and things like that, then that'll be a fun environment as well. In addition, for the Nuggets Thunder game on Sunday, we're going to do another watch party sponsored by Suavecito Tequila. They're going to be sponsoring a lot of the watch parties for the Nuggets going forward. And so there's going to be some Suavecito Tequila there for sure. Vimos app is sponsoring, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I won't be there for that one, but in the future, there will be watch parties that I am there for. and you'll be able to meet some of the Mile High Sports folks. There's merch, there's giveaways, there's things of that nature. So make sure to check it out. It is going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Despite the fact that the Broncos are now done, Mile High Sports is not done doing some fun watch parties. So make sure to go check it out. Okay, let's get into this trade rumor. I've been promising that for a while. On his Substack, or Mark Stein's Substack, Jake Fisher reported some very interesting things about the Nuggets, and I want to give you the full context of the conversation here. This is a direct quote from the article. Another accounting topic. League personnel anticipate that the Nuggets will soon execute a small move of some sort to evade the luxury tax, since Denver currently hovers $500,000 above the tax line. The Nuggets, sources say, are confident they'll be able to do so without sacrificing anyone from their preferred rotation. Okay, that's the first important one, and we'll get to some other bits in just a little bit. The long and short of it is that the Nuggets are trying to duck the tax. It's something I have talked about on this show. It's something that we've talked about on Locked On. Like, I have been on this from the beginning in terms of what the Nuggets are trying to do, what they are trying to accomplish. It's something I heard pretty early, and it's something that they are going to try to execute. It's not a surprise. If you're surprised by this as a Nuggets fan, then you haven't been listening to me for a while. This is going to be interesting. They do not have a lot of salary to dump. Like, that's the thing. And the other factor here is that there aren't that many teams that can just take in a small bit of salary, because there are only two teams that are above, like, that have cap space. There's only two of them. It's Utah and Brooklyn. And so those teams are going to be facilitators. It was actually reported in that same article that they're going to be, in all likelihood, major facilitators for 3-team deals. And if teams have to take on and use additional salary, then they're going to be calling Utah and Brooklyn about it. And so why that matters here is Denver, like, there's a limited amount of space that Denver, like, there's a limited amount of salary that those teams are going to be able to offer, and it's going to come at a premium. And so you usually have to compensate those teams in those situations. And I'm expecting Utah and Brooklyn and other teams that might be willing to take in Zeke Najee's contract, or Julian Strawther, or Hunter Tyson, or whoever. Like, it's going to be very unlikely that they're willing to do so for cheap. And if they do it for cheap, it's probably because the amount of salary that Denver's giving up, let's say it's Hunter Tyson, for example, he only makes $2.2 million. So it doesn't actually give Denver that much relief. Like, they get under the tax, but if they convert Spencer Jones, if they give him like the equivalent of a minimum contract deal, like, does that count? Does that push them right back up into luxury tax territory? It's a good question in terms of what the actual accounting of that looks like. Fisher said that the Nuggets are confident, said that, yeah, Nugget sources are confident that they'll be able to do so without sacrificing anyone from their preferred rotation. Here's how I would interpret that. Their preferred rotation is Murray, Jokic, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, Peyton Watson. Whether he's a starter or not, I don't know. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas, Spencer Jones, and Bruce Brown, I think. Bruce Brown over Jalen Pickett, despite the fact that Pickett has, I think, played better than Bruce on the year. Although, again, it was a really good game from Bruce yesterday, and he's somebody that maybe just has a better second half of the season than the first half. But, like, Denver's unlikely to trade any of those guys in some sort of salary dump. They would be looking to move Zeke Najee, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, I think, are the three names. And then the only other two that are outside of the rotation that actually make money, Deron Holmes, who I don't think they're trying to salary dump yet, or ever. Like, they're still tied to his development. And then Jalen Pickett. And Pickett, I don't think it would make a lot of sense to do so unless they were very clear that they were going to get somebody else as a point guard. So with that in mind, like, that's completely expected. That's something that Nuggets fans should completely understand. The other thing that came out from this report, I'll just read it to you verbatim, is directly from Jake Fisher. It must be said, though, that rival executives are increasingly curious about Denver's likely struggles to retain Peyton Watson this summer, given the fourth-year swingman's recent breakout play amid all of the Nuggets' health woes. We'll certainly be tracking this situation over the coming months since Watson's restricted free agency is already shaping up to become a major domino of the offseason. Sources say teams that are projected to have cap space, notably such as the Lakers, are already preparing interest. Okay. That to me is a pretty strong indication that Peyton Watson's contract in the offseason is going to be pretty big. The interest in terms of like when Denver was thinking about the restricted free agency for Christian Braun and for Peyton Watson, I do not think they were thinking that Peyton Watson was going to command 9 figures on a deal. Now I think it's pretty clear that he's going to command 9 figures. And what that means is at least $100 million. And if like other teams can't offer him 5 years, but they can offer him 4. And so I'm starting to think that the floor for Peyton Watson, based off of what he has done over the course of this last year, is about a 4-year, $100 million deal. And if you are an opposing team and you're really trying to get him, like Denver could probably do the accounting on a 4-year, $100 million deal. Where they struggle is if it starts to get up into the 4-110, the 4-year 120, kind of in that $27.5 million, the $30 million range, somewhere in that general vicinity. Like that's going to be a tough ask for the Nuggets. And so it's why, like, when you think about the accounting things that Denver would have to do, like one of the other things that a team could do is front load a contract, a contract offer in restricted free agency, which means that Peyton Watson's being paid more at the beginning and less at the end. And if that's the case, let's say he's being paid $32 million at the beginning, and it's a descending contract that it pays him $30 million overall. But these other teams, if they did have the cap space and we're like, sure, we're gonna get Denver to get squeezed. Like every dollar matters for Denver in this situation because of the pressure that they are facing at the luxury tax and the second apron and things of that nature. Like they're under a lot of pressure with Jokic's contract and Murray's contract. They're both getting paid the max. And then Aaron Gordon's new contract kicking in, Christian Braun's new contract kicking in. Like it's going to be a lot. So I am increasingly thinking that it's likely that Denver cannot keep all 6 of Jokic, Murray, and then Gordon, Cam Johnson, Christian Braun, and Peyton Watson. I think it's impossible for them. Like it's technically not, because they could just pay the second apron. But I think the threshold that they're going to start to reach here, if Peyton Watson is he's adding a $30 million contract to the mix, is that the bill that they're going to have to pay for those guys is really, really high. So Denver has to make a choice here. And some of it even might happen at this trade deadline. I don't think they're going to do anything too crazy at the trade deadline other than what's talked about as a small move. But as I've discussed, Denver, like there is some incentive here, I think, to try to fit in, like, or to try to be proactive with this before the money does become an issue. Like, do you sell high on somebody like Peyton Watson at the deadline? Probably not, because that would actively work against you and your championship hopes and your championship dreams for this year. And saying goodbye to some of those like talented players before the money even kicked in would be pretty cowardly from a financial perspective. But like it's something that I wouldn't put it past Denver if they felt like they had to do so. Um, but this is a problem. Like this is going to become an issue. And it's something I've been like shouting from the rooftops for a while. And it's something that clearly the rest of the NBA is also seeing. So I don't know what's ultimately going to come to pass, but just wanted to share the numbers that Peyton Watson has been averaging over the course of the last few weeks. Let's just go through his splits in January because I think that that's a good number. If gosh, why is Basketball Reference slow? Come on, man. Peyton Watson. Like we're going to go through the January numbers here because I think it's important to just fully put that out there. In January, like actually here, October he averaged 7 points per game. November he averaged 11. December he averaged nearly 13. Had a little bit more of a usage increase, but nothing too crazy. More of it was just the extra minutes and the average minutes and opportunity from playing in the starting lineup. In January, his usage rate has increased by over 9%, closer to 10%. He's averaging 22.2 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, 3.0 assists. Turnover rate is basically 1-to-1 for what he's doing, but on January, like even with going 6 of 20 yesterday, 48.8% from the field, 45.7% from three, 73.6% from the line. The shooting growth that he has had over this stretch has been ridiculous. Some of it has come back to earth over the course of these last couple games, but he's also had some really incredible games too. Actually, not even. Like I'm looking at the threes. He went 4 of 8 versus the Lakers from three, 6 of 8 versus Washington, and then went 1 of 6 versus Detroit, who's a really great defense. There are questions, I think, as to what P-Watt is going to look like from a scoring and efficiency standpoint against top defenses. There's stuff that he has to do and his refinements that he's got to figure out overall. But the long and short of it is that the development that he's had as a scorer, the ability to get to the floater on a consistent basis, his in-between game, his ability to like attack the rim and be like going downhill and drawing fouls is a really big deal. Like so much of it is learning on the job and real-time development. And so I'm curious as to how much Denver can realistically wait for that development to be realized. There are other teams that are willing to wait, that are in a different position than the Nuggets are right now, where I think Denver's the second best team in the NBA, and they need to win a championship this year. Like that's the goal. That is the implicit goal. If you're not going to bring back Jokic, like, and if you're going to do everything you can to keep him healthy and like you're focusing on the playoffs, that is the goal, is to be the best you can for a playoff run. Is Peyton Watson ready for that? Is a fair question. Like, can he be this kind of player in a playoff environment? Now, doing this against OKC versus doing it against Houston or doing it against the Lakers or doing it against the Clippers or whoever they end up facing in the playoffs, it's a little different. But like his matchups going from CJ McCollum and like in Washington, Keyshawn George and Chris Middleton and guys like that, and playing in that game versus going to Lou Dort and Jalen Williams and Alex Caruso for OKC, or if it's Amen Thompson and Tari Eason and Jabari Smith and guys like that for Houston. Like the overall level is just going to get tougher. So I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm saying that I want to see what happens as Denver continues to play this really tough stretch. Like what happens when a team is really keying on him and they are asking him, okay, now you have to do it against the toughest of the tough defenders in the NBA. I think he'll eventually get there on a consistent basis, but I also think that it might struggle in some of these situations. In addition, as Marco said, he struggled a little bit defensively. He struggled against Cade on the offensive end and the defensive end, I think, where Cade just kind of bullied him and was just very physical against him. I think Peyton's got to get bigger. I think he's got to bulk up a little bit, get a little bit stronger. And that's his next goal heading into the offseason, not just like for defensive purposes, but also just handling the physical nature of the driving game as a superstar and as if he wants to be a star player, if he wants to be like Paul George or somebody like that, he's got to bulk up. He's got to get stronger, and he's got to be able to handle the contact. And if he's going to go to the free throw line, it's because he has to draw fouls, and that's going to be a physical game. So it's going to be interesting to track. Look, I wasn't expecting to have this conversation about Peyton Watson. I thought it would have been a good thing if Denver got him for a 4-year, $60 million deal, or at least like good enough. And now like 4 years, 120 is probably what the number is going to end up being, like 30 million in the offseason. It's crazy. It's a really impressive growth from him. And he has completely changed the future. Now, it's not a bad thing. I think the Nuggets would take, oh no, Peyton Watson's playing really well and he's a really valuable player. What are we going to do? Like they would take that rather than, oh no, Peyton Watson's been really bad and has really struggled and we don't know what to do. It's completely different things. So it is a good thing. And I think Nuggets fans, despite the fact that the future is in question, they need to keep that in perspective. This is a good thing that Peyton Watson has shown up and been great for the Nuggets during this stretch. Is not a bad thing. Denver has more options because of this. They have more tough choices, and it's going to get tough, and they have to navigate this the correct way. But this is a good problem to have, not a bad problem to have. Like, oh no, they've got 6 or 7 starter caliber players on their roster. What are we going to do? They'll be okay. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Would really, really appreciate it. I will probably be back tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to, Denver's obviously playing the back-to-back. Michael Porter Jr. coming back into town. He's going to get a tribute video, and that'll be fun. I don't think I'll be doing a pod after Friday, or after Thursday's game, but I will be doing a pod after Friday's game on Saturday. Whether it's at number 38 or not still remains to be seen because of the watch party, but we will have to see what happens. Everybody, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Would really, really appreciate it. I will talk to you guys very soon.